COVID-19 ushered in a new era in virtual medical affairs. MSLs were asked to pivot overnight to restricted travel and virtual interactions. While no one knows what the new normal looks like, surveys tell us that virtual interactions as part of the MSL role are here to stay. We believe that the execution of a successful virtual strategy is important, regardless of the platform. Relationships first. We're talking about virtual interactions for MSLs. TMAC as a company has always supported virtual medical affairs through our many service offerings, even pre-COVID-19. I'm talking with Kyle Kennedy, VP of Customer Strategy at TMAC. In Kyle's current role, he is responsible for developing, training, measuring performance, and ensuring the success of our field-based teams and managers here in the US as well as globally. This also entails meeting with clients to provide thought leadership and strategic guidance on activities such as support, advocacy, and outcomes. Kyle has over 30 years medical affairs and industry experience where he has launched both medical and commercial teams and has seen the industry morph completely over the last 3 decades. The topic we're focusing on in this discussion are the changes and challenges in being an MSL in a COVID-19 world. And there's no one better to talk through these changes with than Kyle. So thank you for being here, Kyle.
Sonia, so happy to be here to contribute to this important discussion.
My first question is about the bigger picture. What do you see as the value of the MSL, especially in today's current environment?
The value of the MSL has always been about bringing a group of highly educated healthcare professionals from the pharmaceutical industry in contact with the scientific community to discuss emerging science and share insights bidirectionally. It's the scientific acumen of the MSL that builds their credibility. This is best achieved face-to-face, but can easily be accomplished virtually, especially if the MSLs have established relationships. And make no mistake about it, the most important part of the MSL role in any environment is the relationship itself.
I'm so happy to hear you say that because I know relationship building is something that we stress incredibly in our TMAC training as well. So good to hear that that is still a very important part of the role. So do you think a virtual MSL is any different than a traditional MSL?
In concept, no. Because of the changes that the COVID-19 pandemic brought about, we can no longer count on in-person engagements to properly serve our customers. MSLs have always engaged their KOLs virtually, whether it be through phone conversations, text messages, or emails. There are additional virtual video platforms now to help engage KOLs. The platform may change, the engagement model may change, but MSLs are still exchanging scientific information with the healthcare community.
So if I'm a newer MSL or someone who's new to a relationship, how do I establish that credibility in a virtual environment?
That's such a great question, Sonia. Establishing credibility really works the same in any environment. MSLs have to be the experts from a scientific perspective. That goes without saying. Credibility comes in bringing value to the KOL. As an MSL, do you know their likes, their dislikes, their unmet needs, the patient populations they serve, the research interests they have? How do you then tailor your information as an MSL to resonate with the KOL on these topics? The recipe for establishing credibility hasn't changed. It's harder to connect on a human level with people when they exist in 2 dimensions on your computer screen, like we are now, or your mobile device. Therefore, it's incumbent on the MSL to work hard to make sure they're interacting in a way that allows them to build a genuine and meaningful relationship.
I think it's so important to emphasize, as you just did, that the value proposition of the MSL is not only important under normal circumstances, but it's even more so in the 2-dimensional environment that we're in today. Historically, face-to-face interaction has been heralded as the gold standard for MSLs. How has that changed for companies during the pandemic? What are you seeing at the client level?
Well, at TMAC, when business started to slow down due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we estimated that many teams would cut back on their MSLs and they wouldn't be allowed to travel. What we ended up seeing was a successful pivot to virtual interactions. So much so that not only were our teams intact, there were expansions happening on several of our teams. We've seen changes in metrics to include virtual interactions in place of the face-to-face interactions, and we've seen KOLs adapt and embrace these virtual interactions.
So, because of KOLs embracing these interactions, do you think that these virtual engagements are here to stay?
I do believe they're here to stay. Virtual engagements with both KOLs and patients are only going to increase. Patient centricity remains a hot topic in the pharmaceutical industry. MSLs already have virtual advisory boards, virtual Congress participations. Now we're seeing communities of physicians and patients advocacy groups popping up on the internet. These types of activities are proving to be successful in the current environment. We absolutely expect them to continue.
Any last words of advice for MSLs adapting to virtual meetings?
The biggest piece of advice I can offer is to continue to adapt to virtual interactions. They're here to stay. We know the primary goal of the MSL is to be a conduit between the company and the scientific community. That's not going to change. The type of engagement may change. If you can build relationships with your external customers, which is not always easy, but paramount to the MSL's success, you can leverage those relationships across any medium or platform.
Thanks, Kyle, for discussing this today. Your insights, as always, are incredibly valuable.
Happy to be here to share my opinions.
And to our audience, please let us know any topics that you'd like to see in future videos. You can look us up on our social feeds. Your feedback is important to us. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you, Sonia.